Morgan Moeller was like any other 8-year-old. She loved to run and play.
She was the joy of our lives. She was very, very athletic. She was the star of her soccer team.
She was the daughter that every daddy dreams about.
But in October 2001, all of that changed. She began throwing up and quickly dehydrated. Her mom, Kathy, rushed her to the emergency room.
By this time, she could no longer see. She could no longer walk, and he actually had to carry her into the hospital.
She was breathing really fast and took her inside, and we took her up to the room.
Doctors immediately began running tests. And after hours of waiting, Mike and Kathy learned that Morgan had juvenile diabetes.
It was heartbreaking in one sense, but I remember looking at Mike and I said, you know what? It's type 1 diabetes. We can do this. You know, they have insulin. We'll learn how to do everything. We can do this.
Then, doctors gave them more bad news. Morgan was suffering from diabetic ketoacidosis, a complication that occurs when diabetes has been left untreated.
She was manifesting the most severe symptoms of that, where she was having trouble breathing and her heart rate was slowing, and we had to do some things very quickly to help her.
Morgan's brain began to swell, and she was put in a drug-induced coma. Doctors then told Mike and Kathy that Morgan had brain damage, and their little girl might not live.
Dropped to my knees, and I was going, Lord, please not tonight, not my little girl. Please don't take my little girl.
Morgan made it through the night, but the bad reports continued.
They said she would be blind. She would never be able to walk, and she'd never be able to sit up, never have the feeding tube out.
But the Moellers refused to give up on Morgan.
You know what our goal should be? That Morgan's going to walk at Angela's wedding, which was 6 months away, Kathy's sister Angela.
Other Christians rallied around the family. A vast army of prayer warriors were storming heaven for Morgan's recovery.
He would come up and say, I'm praying for you, and that was real important for me. I don't have to carry the burden of all of this prayer, that other people are praying.
Her whole school had found out that she was sick. They had no idea how sick she was. And they all stopped school. And all the school, even the staff and all the church staff, they all got on their knees and they prayed for my little girl. Some of whom didn't even know Morgan, but they prayed for her.
After a month in the hospital, doctors agreed to let Morgan go home, even though she was still unresponsive. Therapy would continue at an outpatient facility. But back at home, Morgan's progress was agonizingly slow.
I remember how much it hurt my heart as she couldn't talk to me. And I remember going, I would give every penny I owned just to hear her say, Daddy, I love you, just one more time.
Mike and Kathy continued to pray. And on New Year's Eve, Morgan began making sounds and finally spoke.
And I go, Morgan, love you. She go, Daddy, I love you. I'm like, oh, it's so good to hear it again. And I must have heard it 1,000 times that day.
Then in March of 2002, Morgan stood on her own. She began taking a few steps and finally graduated from the therapy center. But Morgan's greatest achievement, walking in her Aunt Angela's wedding, the goal Mike had set for her 6 months earlier.
We walk her up to the point where she has to start walking, and there she goes.
She even earned herself the nickname Miracle Morgan.
I have not had a patient that had such severe brainstem injury as Morgan and recover months later as she did to such a high-functioning state as she is now.
Morgan still takes daily insulin shots. But despite a few physical challenges, the Moellers celebrate every day they have with their precious daughter. And the little girl who defied all the odds knows more healing is on the way.
It could be today, it could be tomorrow, or it could be the day before I die. But I know I'm just that God is going to heal me. And I'm just waiting.
I look at her and the Lord has given me back the desires of my heart for her. To see her, she's different. But Morgan has a joy about her. And people just want to be around her because she kind of oozes. And she's always joyful. And when I have like these tough days, I come home and there's Morgan, my 13-year-old. There she is on her knees. She knows what's important.